while we are here, we might as well work together and build something that we all can be equal in. And that's the thing. And you can't just be on an island by yourself saying,
Yes.
you need to go, you need to get out of here, you need to go wherever you can't do that. You have to deal with the issue until it gets solved. That's why you teach the next generation to do better and do better until it's at one point everybody like, damn, we all here together. Screw it. Got it.
Good morning or good day, and welcome to the Get Established Show. Today's show is about something we know all about very well. It's called being black in America. And we could say being a black man in America, but we just can go with being black in America because we can talk from a few good angles on this. So with that, I'm gonna pass it off to Raymond. Take it away, brother.
Good morning, good risings, or however you want to pose it. This is the Get Established Show. All right, I'm here to introduce my co hosts and fellow friends in arms. We have D. Jones,
Good day, everyone.
his brother to the side, Chris, aka Chilla.
And rising.
All right, the man on the boards, as always, doing his thing, Mr. Big.
In the house.
And our co-host, that's more than a co-host. He's the sixth man, when it comes to the pros. He's that fifth man that we put on the squad, because we know he's the sure shot. The man, Hezekiah Carter.
Hey, good morning. Good
All
morning.
right. Before we get into it, I know that we discussed about his, being the being the fill-in host for us. But what I mean, hey, if you could like tell us a little bit, about yourself, and just kind of so before we go into the topic at hand.
Uh, well, I mean, it's 45. It's I'm I'm a black man. I mean, what it's uh
You see, you love President 45.
no,
hey,
I didn't say all that now. So it just
hey, just give us a little background on you, where you from, how where you grew up.
well, I'm a military brat, so I grew up almost everywhere. I was born in Fort Knox, Kentucky. So I guess that's why I'm worth like gold. I always like to say, but travel out. Lived in Atlanta for many years, um, and so it's and love the bow. So it's and definitely love to talk. So yeah.
Absolutely,
Absolutely.
absolutely,
Appreciate
absolutely,
it,
wait,
Hezekiah.
y'all shaking y'all head a little bit too hard right
absolutely.
there.
It's all love, bro. Okay.
But I just want to thank y'all fellas for having me on here again, man. I appreciate y'all.
Brother, you
And I
bring
we
value to the
appreciate you,
show.
sir.
You bring value to the show, man.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I mean,
That's it. We're gonna pass it off to our the introduction of the topic.
Well, today's topic, boys and girls, is called Being Black in America. During the Trump administration, a lot of issues in the Black community came to the forefront. We're hoping this show will give the Black community tools better to navigate, but also give those outside of our community a better perspective of what it's like to live in America while being black.
So our first question, gentlemen, how was it different growing up black in America?
Different compared to
Well,
what? Being white or
Being from other cultures in America, exactly. What
I
well,
make
mean, well, that's
what
a
make it?
hindsight question, right? I mean, because
No,
it's
no, no. I'm saying. So, what was your experience growing up black in America? That's my because I have another question. That this is a two-part question, but the first part of the question is, what was your experience growing up black in America?
well, I mean, just touch on some bases that Chris said. It depends on where you grew up. Like, I mean, I had a really large curiosity about things, and so it was like I always would examine situations, like even the school system, and it shocked the mess out of me where how the school systems in a predominantly white area, predominantly black area, a mixed area, how those were different. Because I mean, I was like in three different schools in my junior year, and in Ohio, the first school, man, the educational standard, they didn't care if you were white or black. They were just like, okay, this is what it is. You know, a chapter a week. This is you get this big old book. I mean, it's a test every Friday. I mean, that's how it was. Then I went to a kind of like a poor white area, and I had to tell the teacher in an English Spanish English dictionary that the words that I was writing down in the essay in a Spanish essay were actually Spanish words, you know. And then to go from there to go to DC, where I mean, our culture is not about. Well, this culture in DC wasn't about academic excellence. It was about social, um, social capital. Like I mean, where you fit on the social scale, but where man, the top five people in this 99% black school were white kids that came out of the district to come to the school to be the top five of the school, where the teachers in that school were all white and were all for those five or those few white kids. I mean, pushing them to the forefront. I mean, I would get in arguments with math because I like numbers. I was in this math class and it was so easy. I was getting hundreds. They had bonus points on it. I was getting 110s and stuff like that. And I was like, teacher, I need a harder class. And she's like, nah, we haven't got to the hard stuff yet. And I was like, okay. So I started tutoring everybody in the class. And then into the semester, she handed out a math scholarship. And I was like, well, hold up. I waved my hand. I'm like, how come I didn't get, I mean, how do you get this math scholarship, right? And she's like, well, I have to nominate you. I was like, well, hold
man,
up. I said, well, why didn't I get nominated? And she's like, oh, well, I didn't think of you. She plainly said I didn't think about you. And I was like, wait, how can you not think about me when I'm the one tutoring the guy you gave it to? It's like,
Dang.
and it was just like, that's when I started seeing. Well, I mean, that's when it solidified it, and it was like, man, this color, this color thing is deep. I mean, it's ingrained. I mean, it is built from the top down. It is about, hey, how do we keep a group down? How do we make it to where they don't care? I mean, we fought for this is 90, this is 92, 93, right? So we fought to try to have equitable education. This is 92, I mean, in the 70s and the late 60s and 70s. I mean, this is 20 years, less than 20 years later, right? And just the aspect of how teachers were and teachers are. and it's and the policies and political things for it. So it's growing up black is I say for me was a harrowing experience because it made me mad. It got me motivated. It had me try to prove that I'm not just my color. You know, um, and then on the flip side, though, I would say that when I went to a all black, well, to Maryland, trying to fit in, I got a lot of flack because of how I talked, you know, um, because that was the time when Ebonics was. I mean, people were like, okay, yeah, we're gonna start this new language and accept this new language of Ebonics. But my mom was a teacher, so it was just. I mean, people would tell me, I was like, man, you talk white. It's like, I talk what? I said, you talk white. And then, excuse me, I don't know if they're like, black, what you talking about? It's like, it's.
Well, Hez, I want to inform you, you still talk white, sir.
Well, at the time, right, I know this is getting kind of long-winded, but the thing is at the time, those are the divisions, right? I mean, it made me like kind of rebel against that. It's like, hold up, why are my people? Because when you're black, regardless of what color, I mean, what level of melanin you have in your skin, you black. But sometimes when you're in the straight all black community, that there's still those divisions. I mean, because you remember the light skin, the dark skin wars. I mean, the all those different situations. It's like, I mean, trying to say, hey, where do I fit in? Because it's like you don't fit in on the white side because you're not white. You know, um, if you don't talk a certain way on the black side, then it's like, okay, well, you're not black to some folks. If you're smart, you're not black to some folks, depending on where your environment is. So
Cool. Let's get some interjection from someone else. Also, Hez, I know you could hold this question down by yourself, sir. But
my bad, fellas. My
no,
bad.
you good, you good, you good, you good.
What was the question?
What was your experience growing up black in
Black
America?
in America. Oh man.
My experience was, let me tell you, when the real change in my life came when you become a teenager. And that's like a big switch, I think, for a lot of, I don't know, I can't say for black females, but for black men, that's when you start going out. You may go to the movies, you go to the mall. Around here, a lot of us used to like to go to the mall, kind of just walk around the mall. That's what kids do. Even though our mall was this big, we just didn't know it was that big back then, But that's when you start getting followed. That's when you driving, you getting pulled over. And I'm gonna tell you about an incident, and then I'm gonna pass it on. There was an incident when I was either 16 or 17, and my dad, um, at this time, was a deputy in the city that I lived in, and I actually knew the sheriff, they knew me because I would come down there sometimes to see my dad. But there were incidences that would occur where the officers didn't know that, didn't put two together. I got the same name as my dad. But there was a night I never forget this. I'll never forget this. It was a lot of us. It was probably 5 or 6 carloads of guys. We had went down to what everybody goes down to. It's an event here called Harbor Fest. It's the first weekend in June. Back then, we didn't know that it was tied to slavery. We just didn't know. We didn't know the history of it then. We just knew it was a big festival on the water, and a lot of people was going to be there. There's going to be a lot of good food, and there was going to be some girls to meet. And we were there probably just like every other teenager, every other ethnicity. And we parked on one side and we took the ferry over because you had an event going on this side, and then you could ferry over to the other side that was the bigger event. So as we were walking back to our cars, we were walking, and they had some cops on bikes, and the whole time we walking, I mean, we are doing absolutely not just being kids. We laughing, talking, talking with the cop and laughing and just all of that, just having a good time. Everything was cool. We was like, oh man, this dude cool, no problem. So as we got to our cars, as soon as we got to our cars and got in our cars, you would have thought we had robbed Fort Knox, because there was a bunch of bike cops that came out of nowhere. There was cars that pulled up. There was SUVs that pulled up. I mean, I felt like a helicopter was out there, but it wasn't. And my whole thing was, what did we do to bring all this attention? Why do I have to prove? They like, well, we need to see everybody ID, where y'all going, why are y'all here? Why did y'all leave now? All of these things that, at that point, these are the things that started to come aware. Your white counterparts don't have to deal with this. And they did that, held us up. Now we all driving, probably our parents' cars, and some of us, had our own cars that was still probably in our parents' names at that time, because we was 16, 17 years old. So after all the ID checks and all of this, I was absolutely livid. I mean, I was so angry. But at the same time, what I'm dealing with, not only I'm angry because we being profiled unfairly because we've done nothing but go to an event where we gave money. We supported that event with money, and now we're being harassed by the police for doing absolutely nothing but being black, being a teenage black men. We didn't have no guns. We didn't have no drugs. All we had was money in our pockets and keys to our cars and gas in them. And they pulled us over, and basically it's a soft torture, but it's something that that happens to black men all the time. And people say, well, why is he so angry? Why is he this? Why is it? Because these situations stack up on you. They stack up inadvertently in your mind. And this is where the tension starts to come from people in authority, because you're being mistreated for no reason. Or the reason is that you're black. So they let us go. But look at how can you not be embarrassed about having that type of police presence or attention, and they're holding you? You're under arrest. You can't walk off. You can't run off. You can't do any of that. You have to stay there and deal with that. And people riding around wondering, what did these thugs do?
Wow.
Man,
Chris, what do you want to add, sir? I mean, how was your experience growing up black?
Growing up black, it's you knew your place. You knew you were black once you started being around certain, ethnic groups. You could tell the difference. You could tell how the teacher took more of an interest, even in class, on certain pupils than you, even though, they work harder with certain ones. And I mean, I can't say all teachers like that, because I did have some good teachers who really did try to invest into some of us black, education. But then I had teachers who just really didn't care about black students unless you was an athlete playing sports. And you could see it. And when I was in school, some of the athletes couldn't read. They couldn't, their schoolwork didn't matter, because they played sports and they did good in sports. And history, history was a waste of time. And to me, in my era of school, it was BS. because the only thing I could tell you about history was slavery, and it was the best thing for the black man. We were savages. Black people was animals. White people was civic. They taught us how to become civic. We didn't know how to clean ourselves properly. We was animals. This is all I got out of history.
So
White
this is
man
what you
came
would.
over here, and yes, the white man came over here, and they established here and put a White House there, and they made us. We was people with spears and just people. That's all I got out of history, and I was imposed because at the time there, from me being 13 and young, trying to do music and all that, I was into the Nation of Islam, listening to them. I was listening to Farrakhan. I was listening to the PE. I was listening to this stuff. So my mind was into a lot of stuff that I was learning about black stuff that they wasn't educating me. I was listening to Chaos One, You Must Learn, and I was looking at what we invented, and I was looking at how these people capitalized off our inventions, and we never got credit for nothing. So it's like, as a young man between 13 and 16, I was like real rebellious to what they was telling me. I was like, because I was that James Brown listening to it in the background, my dad playing, I'm black and I'm proud. I didn't I would get confrontational with a white person very quickly. I don't care if it was a police or if it was a teacher. I didn't care about getting suspended. My grandma, me and her would talk after that or whatever consequences came, but you always gonna not make me feel belittled because of my colors. I mean, I remember going in the neighborhoods or going to the basketball courts, and because two people out there fighting and we playing basketball and the police pulls up, and I don't even Derek might have been out there in one of those scenarios, and it was like a little ride, but all us just standing around watching, and the police come out there with K9 trucks, and they just let police dogs go on us at the court, and we just standing around just fresh out of school because 2-3 dudes fighting out there, and it's like girls and boys, you got 100 and some black kids out there, and the police dogs ain't running to the ones fighting. They running to the spectators. They didn't care. I was there in the era of us looking at Greek Fest down Virginia Beach when the National Guards were called out of the Virginia Beach, and then we watching something like what's going on in the Capitol, but they was ready to go at us because we just trying to have Greek Fest, and it wasn't even nothing there, and people was down the street singing "Fight the Power." I was there at Freaknik with a dirt when the National Guards again was in the ATL was out there and cats were riding and stuff. You know what I'm saying? We been in these scenarios. I done been in I can write a 3, 4, 5 novels on being black and harassed by police, walking in the store, being followed. I done been with Dirt, and just like the police said, we drove so fast that the car shook. 6 lanes over. We driving a Volkswagen Golf. We driving so fast. The police 6 lanes over on the side. We drive so fast in a Volkswagen Golf that his car shook. His car shook. I remember time Derek came out of here and we went to Julian's, and I think Big and Raymond might have been with us. They wouldn't let us in because of our shoes, but they let a white person in. You don't remember when you came down here?
It was Raymond. Raymond was with us. Raymond
it's so much racial. It's hard for me not to even snap because you can't take this out of me. You can't take this out my DNA. You can't take this out my loin. You can't take this out the next seed of my grandson. You can't take this out. It's just more now, y'all than divine. In America being black, you don't know what to expect. You just want to make, and what I was going to say before you start the dirt, a white man can get up in the morning, oh, it's a beautiful day. Oh, this is going to be a great day, and come home without worrying about dying. I got to go on these streets. I got to worry about these stupid young little black dudes who can carjack me, shoot me at the wrong place, going in the store. They want to rob the store. I got to worry about the stupid policeman want to pull me over because I look like a suspect because I got my hoodie on, could get shot. Put your hands up. And I'm trying to drop my keys. Pow, pow, I get shot. They ain't going to give me a second chance. I can't cut this and retake. I got one life. Do you know what I'm saying? So this harassment in America, it's fearful being black in America, man. Because I'm looking over my shoulder. I got to look at Raymond. Know how I am when I'm even with him and a bunch of young. What I do, I get at the wall and I'm telling Raymond, watch these because I know how the atmosphere could change in a heartbeat with in a crowd of black young cats that is fighting and shooting in a second. So I got to be aware of that. And the sad thing is about it, I can go in a crowd of white people and feel safe. I can go out and party with it. And I'm like, don't even worry about that. You all right. You ain't gonna get lynched tonight. They just having a good time. But if I'm in a crowd, the crowd, look, I'm gonna look. If you're in a crowd of little blonde black dudes, the crowd staring great, all of a sudden lightning stars strikes. You're like, and then you would be like, look, it's time to go. You know, the sun getting ready to count down. You can see the cloud, you can see the atmosphere changing real quick.
That's crazy because I know here in Atlanta, the key phrase is on everything I love. And if you hear that, it's time to disperse. Shine.
It's heat.
One incident. Gotcha. This is most prevalent. All right. And I've told this before to y'all. This was when I was in the military. And I had a corporal. You know, he well, you know, I was working and you know, trying to do what I had to do to get done. He wanted me to do something and I told him, just give me a moment, I'll get right to it. You know, so then he walked off. And in the midst of that, he went to a sergeant and both of them was conversing amongst each other. So, and I was in earshot of what they were saying. So the corporal was telling the sergeant that, you know, well, I'm trying to get, you know, the Lance Corporal to do this. And he just tell me that he's going to get to it. And, you know, when he gets done. And then the sergeant replies to him like, what? I don't know. If that would have been me, I would have told that nigga he need to hurry up and get up and do what he got to do and come on. So I heard him say nigga. So I stood up and I started to walk over there, but I said, you know what? Hold up, it's two white people there. Let me go on to my sergeant. Let me go to him first. So I went to him and I told him, I said, do you know that Sergeant so-and-so called me a nigga back here because I didn't do what the corporal told me he wanted me to do. So, I mean, because I went there and I was like, look, man, if you don't do nothing about it, I'm going to go back there and beat somebody's ass. And he told me, hey, go home. And, you know, I'm like, well, you know, I hell with it. I'll go home. So, you know, I went back to the BEQ. And you know, it was just a
what
whole
is that
big
for us non-military people? BAQ.
Basic enlisted quarters. All right, so this, you know, so the whole incident was squashed by my leaving, but it was just that moment there that, you know, infuriated me because it's like you're telling me that you're in a branch of government, the military, where it's supposed to be everyone is looked at equally, you know, because when I went in, and I'm gonna wrap it up, but when I went in, it was like, you know, you treated, even though you treated a certain way, it's still you treated you. There's light and green, light dark skin green, or light and dark skin green. You know, it's no, you know, hey, you know, you nigga, you a spick, or you, there's none there. You get treated, you treated fairly. This is the one place that you could be treated fairly. But again, you have those elements that are in there. You know, it doesn't matter where you go, you're gonna have those elements. And you know, it's just something that it did get to me. I tried to do whatever I could to be above all that, you know, but it's you still gonna deal with that type of issues as a black person in America. whether you're in the military or you're not in the military, whether you're in government or you're not in government. You're dealing with those issues all the time.
True that,
I'm
man.
done.
And before I move on to the next question, just a brief statement. Um, it's weird how I moved from Portsmouth, Virginia, to Atlanta, Georgia, and here in a black city, what I thought was a black city until I got here, I experienced more racism here than I did in Virginia. That's crazy, man. But anyway, next question.
Further down south.
As far
Yeah,
as
man.
as far as black kids in America, how is the process different in raising them, and how do you explain racism to your kids?
Oh,
Well,
man, you probably should have did this question first.
Well, it's part of that. I remember I said a two-part question. I wanted to
Right,
talk
right.
about our
well,
experiences, and then I wanted to relate that to the kids.
you
So
try
that's
to
raising kids.
you try to explain to black kids, you're not gonna be, some people just feel entitled, even when I drive.
Mm.
White people to me always feel entitled. They can just walk across the street, stop for me, or they can cut in front of you in the store, stop for me. It's just a rareness that they feel entitled to stuff. So it's like even with your kids, you tell a kid, you try to raise them to be, don't be afraid, but at the same time, don't go out here and let your frustration, because this is the way the world is, where you at. This is the way people gonna act towards you. It's gonna make it when you do your schoolwork and you better than somebody, and somebody white might be there. You might be challenged that you know you feel like you got to do a little better than them. You will always have to do better than somebody who's look different than you. You will always have to strive harder, even if you do sports. The other person, if they at least a little bit good like you, they gonna always get that more attention. It's no different than Eminem getting that rap. Even though it's lots and lots of great artists, and I'm not knocking Eminem because he's phenomenal, but that status of him selling records is because of how he looked. So it's like you always teach your kids, no matter what, you're gonna have to be better, work harder, be smarter than your European looking friend.
With that being said, Raymond, let me ask you this:
Mm.
when something happens, how do you explain to your kids about racism when they experience that first incident where somebody outside of our community treats them different? How do you explain that? Because we
Um,
do, as
uh,
black people, we do teach our kids
hold
Can
on,
I
Chris.
can
the
I can
love
I
Hold on,
factor.
interrupt
hold
with
on,
it?
Chris. Because give me a moment. I, you basically you tell them, okay, well, hey, growing up in this dominant society, you're gonna deal with these, mostly white, that's going to look at you in a condescending manner because they're the ones that perpetuate the negative stereotypes that are put on you as a person of color. You know, as a child, you when you get exposed to this, it's going to shape your growth and development. You know, you just got to recognize that these people don't determine who you are. You determine who you are. They're gonna try to affect who you are, and in the society there are gonna be things that they're gonna do to prevent you from getting where you have to go or where you want to go. But you have to continue on striving to do what you need to do to better yourself and to get where you want to be, because you're going to be that next leader. You're going to be that next person that's going to be in line to create and be able to be ahead of like even Big said at time one time, companies or whatever. You're going to be this person to be in a position of authority, and so you have to look beyond what someone tells you that that's going on against you, because you're bigger than that.
Cool. Chris, if you can make it brief, what were you getting ready to share?
I was gonna say this, like, well, wait a minute. I was just gonna be funny because it's like the dude in Virginia was sitting down with his family, and somebody had did some credit card fraud, and this man, a black dude, had a business, and he's sitting down at a food court with his family. The police went over there without really, you know, really doing their job as, you know, the way they supposed to. They arrested him in front of his little kids and his wife sitting at the food court, and you looking at this as a white dude, would they do the same thing? No, they wouldn't. It's how they handle us in public what makes me mad every time I look at it, because it's like the way they handle us, they feel like they can just come in and do whatever they want to in front of our kids, or, you know, you see your brother with his hands up and he didn't do nothing and get shot. We've been traumatized so much in America from little ages, watching images of people who look like us, to watching our friends, to watching family members, or, you know, just going through the trauma of white society and watching officers doing stuff, that it's kind of hard when these little kids are looking at this on TV, going to school and their friends are talking about it, being harassed because they black, or going through their book bag, little boy, you stole something, and taking their book bag off, and they coming home asking you questions. It's kind of hard. Because your heart goes out, because you just want your kid to come home to be safe. You don't want your kid to end up dead. So it's kind of hard.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Trying to, we can talk all we want, but each one of us gonna feel emotionally different. Some, like I said, we take two kids. One kid might like be mad and want to be somebody of justice. They could be twin. The other one might be depressed and going to drugs. You can't tell somebody how to feel when something happens to them, because we all handle the situation
differently. Let me pass the question over to Big.
Man, there's so many conversations that you gotta have with your kids, but just like growing up, my parents always told me I had to be 3 times better to get to wherever I wanted to be. I had to be 3 times better, because the system wasn't set up for me. It's not set up for me, and it's only because of the way I look. So my mom instilled in me, my parents, I should say, instilled in me, be the best part of you. And that's like, even on Sundays when I do my message, I ended with asking people to try to be the best part of you. But as black, you have to have that talk with your kids when they get their license. And actually you start having conversations with them before that. But it's a step-by-step process when you get pulled over that a black kid or black person needs to go through, just to ensure the possibility of being able to drive off with just a ticket and not a bullet. The conversation that you have to tell them, what happens in school, what you need to do when you go in a store. You need to always, one thing and this is what I always tell when I see a black kid do this, because right now there's this thing going on where people ask you, do you want your receipt? What the hell do you mean, do I want my receipt? Part of my transaction comes where I pay you for that receipt. But a black kid walk out the store without a receipt, a black man or black person walk out of the store without a receipt, and somebody says he didn't buy that. How do you prove you bought it without a receipt? You go reach for your cell phone and you could catch a bullet because they thinking you going to grab a gun. So black people, when you buy something, make sure you got your receipt, because that's how dangerous it could be. Something as trivial as that. These are the things that other ethnicities don't have to worry about, and not just white people. Everybody is above black people in America. Everyone, Filipino, Mexican, Asian, every other race is above black people, and all we have done is be black. And some of the situations that we have been put in, and some of the situations that have happened, when you're fighting to survive, things happen. Fortunately, I didn't grow up that way. I've never missed a meal at all. But there's people that I realize now and didn't understand when I was in school. Why is this kid having these behavioral problems? Why is this? Why is that? Why are these things? I'm like, I don't understand. We go home and everybody, is good. We got food, we got TV, we got this. But I didn't know. I know now as an adult that as a kid, I didn't know that maybe that kid didn't eat last night, or maybe their water was cut off, or maybe their heat wasn't on, or maybe their parents wasn't even there. Those are the things that go swept under the rug and forgotten about when it comes to Black people. And I'm not going to get off on a tangent here in another direction, but these are the things that we have to deal with parallel, and in tandem, that we aren't even aware of some of the things that are going on in our community because we don't live it, but we're treated as if we're the lowest common denominator. And it's demonstrated all over, and it's demonstrated all over. Go ahead,
Wow.
Derek.
Wow. Hez, you want to interject?
Yeah, I mean it's um, like what Big said about compartmentalize this conversation. You know, as the questions about how do we raise our kid now. One of the biggest things that I wrote down, as far as all of us were talking about in so many words, was what we call this Black restraint, right? Um, how we teach our kids, those around us, this Black restraint, whether um, actively or inactively, is because of the experiences that we've been through that make us angry, right? So um, you want to teach your kid not to have to go through that experience, because we try to figure out. I mean, when you go back to that person, that young person that you were, and you were in that situation, and you're trying to figure out what you did to put yourself in that situation, you try to teach your kid not to do something to not be in that situation, right? So, and then the anger. I mean, all the anger that we have, that we keep, right? Because I mean, it's not gone. We compartmentalize it.
Mm-hmm.
That we don't. We try not to teach our kids that anger without having the good with it, right? So it's we can't open up the floodgates, because if we opened up the floodgates, we might make them too angry. Because I mean, it's like some of the stuff is just crazy. And I was sitting here when you asked the question, thinking about how do I teach my kids about being Black in America, you know? And I'm sitting here like, okay, um, as I'm thinking about that, I teach them how to be themselves in America and how to deal with being Black, So it's um, when the situations arise. Uh, and of course, at the different ages, it's something completely different where some of them don't have that experience. Some of them don't have that, uh, um, where walking into the grocery store, going to the party, and being stopped by the cops. I mean, some of that's a little bit more deceptive now. Like, I mean, my son, 21, we live up here in White House, in this a different area than Atlanta. And just sidebar, yeah, they're moving to Atlanta. I experienced more racism in Atlanta than anywhere else. Um, but him being 21, and like he would go to his friend's house over here that he worked with, that was white, right? So, and I was like, man, I need to know where you're at. I need to know the address. And he's like, and I could tell him looking at me like, man, what for? You know, I'm like, man, because, dude, I mean, you're Black, you know, uh, the majority of people around you are white. It's um you don't know what could happen. Some girl could say this could drop off. I mean, it's like, hey, I need to know where you're at. So if something goes down, I know where to get you from. And it's like, and he still doesn't have that concept. Like, I mean, I need to know when you're leaving. I need to know all that stuff so that I know what can happen to you. Because I mean, we've already experienced it. We have already gone through those different processes. So How do you raise black kids in America? Man, how I raise them, it's hard. I'm trying to give them all the tools as much as I can to be successful and to be less angry. Because, dude, I'm angry. I mean, it's. I mean, when you saw Raymond talk about his situation, there was anger. I mean, Chris talk about the situation, Big talk about the situation. It's anger. I mean, it affects our lives up to this point. I mean, that these are situations that affect us that we want to know a different. I mean, dude, it's just some painful stuff. So I
Gotcha.
try to
Gotcha.
teach them good stuff, man.
Gotcha. Okay, next question. Everybody knows about the recent coup at the Capitol. My question is, how would this have been different if the majority of the coup was black?
I think Chris should answer that first.
You can go.
Yeah, Chris, you take it first.
And you see how it was, man. We wouldn't even come on, Dirt. Dirt has been out there in Atlanta, and they know how the National Guard. When the National Guards come out there, are you going that way? Answer the
No,
question.
no. I mean,
Okay.
brief
The
sidebar.
National man, you got a national. Now, this is the crazy thing. The National Guards was there. They wasn't blocking the Capitol. For them to walk in there, it's like somebody gave them the red flag, like roll out
No,
the cop.
the National Guard wasn't there. That was the issue. That was the Capitol Police.
But I'm talking about the National Guard was in D.C. If they want, the me, come on.
Okay.
He's
What
saying
I'm
that
saying,
they there at
They
the
were
rally.
present
they was present. It was no
they
reason.
weren't
Is
on
no
there at the
reason.
rally.
Is no reason that you know what I'm saying. I
It
put it
is a
this way. I put it this way. In D.C., we won't be able to go in that city hall around here without no consequences of getting shot, stomping in there and grabbing podiums and taking selfies and it can be just locally military. I guarantee you, we wouldn't get away with it. It ain't no way in the world we could have marched in there and did that. That's what I'm talking white privilege. White people can do stuff like that and then get on TV talking about I'm married to a black woman and because you don't want to go to jail. And 9 times out of 10, they probably get smacked on the wrist. But we will be looking at some consequences. It's a federal offense. They broke into the Capitol. That we be hearing federal words here. We done broke this site and this code and all this. We be hearing numbers and we like, yo, we need to bring back Johnny Cochran or somebody. We need to resurrect them out the grave for all these shots. You know, we'll be talking like that.
Well, that's if we're breathing. That's if we're still breathing.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, because even if we would have had tear gas, we would have had black jacks, we would have had rubber bullets, we would have had real shells, we would have had everything thrown at us. You see what I'm saying? And we wouldn't have been walking around doing those selfies. Even if somebody would have got shot, it would have been a whole lot of black people got shot. Believe that.
Go ahead, Sean.
And it been justified, and wouldn't nobody been going to jail.
I'm gonna say one sentence. As soon as the first black person touched that fence, everybody would have been loaded on. They would have been shit. They would have shot everybody. Everybody would have been shot. Tear gas, all that. It ain't gonna be no, oh well, we're gonna just let you grab the fence and do no, oh he aggressive. Pow.
You know, that's
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Man, I mean it's that I didn't get a chance to see the images when it came out. I tell you, my dad called me. I was driving, my dad called me. And he used to work for TSA. And my dad doesn't call me often, but I mean, when he calls me, he's pretty passionate about certain things. But he said, man, we used to live in DC. You know, DC Capitol Police. You know that they don't play. And remember, when we were talking about 92, 93, DC was the murder capital of the world, right? I mean, it's to see, that first had my dad call me and said, these motherfuckers crazy. And then to see the images of cops back up. I mean, to see that, I mean, I was like, man, my first thought was, I didn't even think about the Capitol. I was just like, man, if those were black folks, something different. Then I thought about the Capitol, but I had never seen where cops back up.
Some
I
of them
mean,
letting them in.
letting them,
They
I mean,
had to roll out the
guns
cop.
drawn, backing up. I mean, when you look at George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all those, they were cops going, I mean, forward, all of them. I mean, think of all the shooting instances. It was never an instance where one backed up. They were all going forward.
And shooting in the back
Look,
as
and
well.
check
shoot.
this out. But check this out. It was an incident a couple of years ago. A girl was racing around DC trying to go through the barriers and
I
got
remember.
killed.
I
You remember
remember.
she got killed?
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
going through the barrier, shit, they killed her. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
How did that happen?
Mm.
But these people, this was just a couple of years ago. They killed that chick. They killed that chick. Now,
I think it's the hypocrisy, the blatant hypocrisy in a situation of where, you know, if you take the color and change the color, how that situation would have been completely different. Where they were opening up the gates, where they were doing, I mean, taking selfies, I mean, waving them in. It's to a sacred place. And then you see the video of them breaking the windows and breaking the sound equipment, and you're sitting here and you're like, and you think of all the other protests throughout where it's like peace. I mean, where I'll even use that white man got pushed down, that old white man got pushed down during a Black Lives Matter. I mean, because he wouldn't get out the way of the guards coming. I mean, and it's like because they were moving forward, right? So it was just because they were clearing out, and then you see they tried everything in their power not to shoot, not to shoot anybody. I mean, they didn't shoot in the air. They didn't say, "Pow, step back." They didn't do nothing. They to see it, you know, to
see that was like, what in the hell am I watching? Is this scripted?
You was watching white privilege at the full honor
at its full
at its epitome.
It's white privilege. That's
it's like what Chris said earlier. When Chris said it's like how somebody would feel like, you know, get over it. You right there, their mama, and their kid comes back, and it's like that's almost like the situation.
No
it
doubt.
was almost like it's like, okay, hey, look, we're gonna beat you down, tell you that it was justified because of your violence or whatever, and then somebody goes and does the exact same thing, and then they don't do nothing. It's like, oh well, that's different. What?
Did you see the black guy that was standing in the chambers looking just awestruck and shocked?
Yeah, I saw him.
But you know he going to jail, though, right? You know he going to jail, though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
He won't no visit. He won't no visit.
Yeah, they got him. And he was like, I can't believe this shit.
He the one gonna have the most time.
Absolutely.
He gonna get like 30 years. He getting life. All of them getting probably freaking probation.
There was all because he was being curious.
Yeah.
There you go.
He's like, man, where all these people go?
This one. The curiosity killed
the cat. You get to go. I get to go too.
But check it out. Where Trump passed that law, the monuments and statues, automatic 10 years. This is another thing that got me. How the hell that day only 13, 14 people was arrested?
On the day.
On the day. Until after curfew. And then when they got...
But I remember, and I was telling somebody, I remember when everything was going on in Atlanta that night that those kids
Yeah, right. Got shot in the car.
got hurt with dealing with the cops. They had buses. They had paddy wagon buses out there loading people up and putting them in jail, and they weren't doing half of what these people were doing. And this is the thing. I want to be clear about this. We know we live in America. We understand we live in America. And some people are gonna watch this. Some white people may see this. I want you to know the indictment is for racist. That's who the indictment is of this conversation. It's for racist, implied, covert, and overt racism. That is who we're talking about. The people that are here to support what's fair, and to me, what's fair is regardless of your race, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your religion, be treated the same.
All right, gentlemen.
That's fair.
I got
Let
it.
me
Go ahead.
Let me add one. It's just the second with big is that there's conscious and unconscious bias out there, right?
Right.
Where there's a lot of people, a lot of white people, a lot of black people that say, okay, well, hey, look, this world is different. That things are not what everybody says it is, or that it's. But there's a level of unconscious bias out there, which almost everybody has, and there's a conscious bias that has been tapped into in this society. And what I would say that this forum is for is to have you look within yourself about your conscious and unconscious bias about any race or people or group of people, and see if you can adjust that biasness, because we all have them. Because the incident at the Capitol is a prime example of where you see biasness perpetuated. Where cops were not scared of somebody with guns, not scared of a mob, not scared of this, and they felt okay. And it was showcased where a color can cause somebody to be scared of that whole situation.
Gotcha. And Hez has already answered this last question that I was going to ask, but I'm going to ask the other gentleman. How do we begin to move towards change?
Off the bat, everything got to be restructured. I understand the point of, or the thought of defund the police, but probably from everything now is based on what is, I don't want to say politically correct, but what is how people receive the message.
Right.
And I think that the words defund confuses a lot of people. And the people that's already on the fence with their biases feel like that's just too harsh. But I understand what they mean. They mean put the money into other services other than patrolmen. You know what I'm saying? Like for mental health, bring mental health. For other incidences, just provide a different service than always sending an armed policeman to every situation. Somebody dropped their cake on the ground, it's a fight, send a patrol car. No. We have to tear everything down. And that's the reality, because everything is a symbol of racism in America. The flag, the national anthem. Now, this is the thing.
Yeah,
this national anthem is so daggone racist. And the only reason people don't really know how racist it is because they used to singing or learning the first verse.
They don't listen to all of it, right?
It's an entire song, okay? The whole system of The whole system just needs to be revamped. It's too many things, and this is the thing. Just like with the Confederate flag, okay? People, you'll have certain white people to say, "Oh, it's about heritage." No, it is clearly uh, indisputable. It is saying, "I am a racist. I want slavery. I believe in slavery." That's what the whole damn fight was about. The whole damn fight for the Civil War was about slavery. That is what that flag represents. It is not, unless your heritage is being a slave master. That's what that's about. All of that junk from the past that divided people needs to disappear. It needs to be outlawed. It needs to be over. That's the only way this country can move forward, because we have resources that are untapped that don't get utilized and you don't get access to because of skin color.
Chris,
Got to move past
how
that.
do we move forward to make change?
I mean, Big just summed it up to the best, what you can basically say. Big, I agree 100% with everything with Big. The only thing I might add is that I get frustrated because I know who I am. I'm a native 100% blood, me and you, Dirk. And I know the rest of the gentlemen up here are natives too. We're not Africans. We're 100% Native Americans. I am a blood, and my ancestors are the blood of this land. This is nationally my land. I didn't ship. I was already here. Most of our ancestors was already here. We didn't have to catch no boat. We didn't come from Africa. We was already here. I am one full blood Cherokee of this land. And this was one of the first lies they told us and took our land from us. So when I see how they mistreat us, and they're not originally from here, they ran from because the British people was taxing them, enslaving them, and they ran over here to be free, but they brought that same here, and they doing this to the national people of this land.
All right, hold on. All right.
Shad, how do we begin to move towards change?
Okay. I agree with Big. But I'm gonna say this. In order for us to be able to move forward, there has to be a unilateral agreement that there needs to be a change, and there needs to be actions to move forward to propagate that. If there's not a willingness to do that, if there's we got to do it, we can still do it this way, or we don't need to change anything as far as law, we just have a mindset change. No, it's not going to happen. It has to be some laws, some imposed laws that say, hey, this is what we're going to do. Everything that's been written was against us. Everything that was written for us was circumvented with other laws that negated those things. So it's just a whole it's a restructuring of the system. Throw all that stuff away. Where it started good was we the people. That's it. Everything after that then went straight left.
But
once we start saying we the people.
But we the people needs to be defined.
That's what I'm saying. It's
right, but
what starts there.
But
we
what I'm saying, right, and I agree 100%. But we, the people, need to be defined, because that we are not. When they wrote "we the people," it had
not three. Right, it's not 3/5 of them. I mean, I agree with actually. Everything is encompassed. Like, where do we start? Right, part of it is tearing it down. I mean, because there's just like what Raymond was talking about. There are laws that are out there that are distinctly in place to keep us where we're at, right? But there's something I said before about we have to get at the table.
True
Because
indeed.
I mean,
Exactly.
if you look at all of us, all of our experiences, we know what we want to change because of what we experience.
Right.
I mean, it's very difficult to try to tell somebody who has not been through our experiences or something similar to our experience to say, okay, hey, look, a lot of those senators and Congress people and everything, they didn't change their tune until it affected them in the same scenario that they could see and relate it to what we were talking about before. Once they fear for their lives, crawling behind, pews in the Congress chamber, and they were like, "Oh man, this is serious." We thought the words were just fake. We thought the words were just, oh, okay, yeah, we could say anything that we want, and it wouldn't incite people, or
Mhm.
that it wouldn't affect us. But we have to be at the table. And I'm not talking about we as just the color black. I'm talking about we as a mindset of inclusion. Those people who are, because there's some black folks out there that say some really stupid stuff. I mean, um, and
Candace
some,
Owens.
just that say some stuff where it's like, wait a minute, man, that makes absolutely no sense. I don't know what
No
world you
damn
lived in.
sense.
Right. But we have to be at the table. You have to, when you look at Congress and you see who was there, you have to put term limits on folks to force change. You
Right.
you have to um see more people of color. And I'm not talking about just black people. I'm talking about women. I'm talking about every person that makes up America. To start putting them at the table so that here things can change. Because
But they
if
don't
it's
want to.
not, because it can't be
We
all
talking
one
about
way.
change.
Right. 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 Right.
Um,
I mean,
it,
I
it,
agree with you 100% on that. Yeah.
it's got to force it. And then the educational system is the other part. You cannot move this country forward
Exactly.
if you do
Yes.
not, revamp this education system to
Yes.
teach to teach about inclusion, to teach about, because, um, like I mentioned at the very first, my long-winded statement at the very beginning, um, man, this system, this educational system, is built for that. Hey, look, for people to be complacent and complicit in in this current environment, to say, to not challenge it, to not care about, you know and to be ignorant on these subjects. When you look at history, when you look at different things, it's like, um we got to be about this education of the society. And being able to go vote, to look at your zoning boards, to be part of your zoning boards, your school boards, your local governments, to start getting out there and making sure that, hey, look, it's going to change. We try, like, from the question of what do we teach our kids, to the question of change, to this podcast, right? Our whole point is to try to share our viewpoints so that people can feel where we're coming from and make a change, to not have to go through what we've been through, right? So, there's going to be, we cannot, I don't want my kids to go through what I went through. I just don't want them. You know, I want them to understand as much as possible what I went through, so that they can learn to be better. And I want those who have put me through what I've been through to realize the pain and the hurt and so that they don't do it to anybody else. So when we look at the election, when we look at this process, and we're asking for change and talk about representing us, yeah, I don't see anybody that's been through what we've been through up there, right? But they had a different struggle. You know, there's a different situation. I talked to my neighbor who's white, who has white man privilege, who stresses out about white man privilege, and he feels bad for stressing out about white man's privilege, right? So it's um, this conversation, this what we're doing here is to get people to relate to the pain and the need of change, and where it's got to start somewhere, and it's starting by um, us speaking about it, hearing your passion. I mean, all of us have been passionate about the struggles that we've had growing up black in America, and those struggles are going to continue. I mean, it's. I mean, we're centuries away from a different, a non-struggling situation for blacks. I mean, but it's got to change. I mean, it's got to, and that's what we're talking about: getting people that may not think just like us, but think different than those who thought before. I mean, and so, and us getting to making a vote, us getting out there, getting on the school board, becoming teachers, getting out there in a different mix, getting out there in other in majority white areas or majority certain color areas to show that hey, not everything that you see on TV is what it is. Some of it is. To get to the young people and say, man, pull your damn pants up, you know.
Let me tell you why.
Yes. And
That's
it's like,
that's the power.
See,
Pull your pants up and let me tell you why.
and let me give you the education on how to make a life in this world, to be better in this world, to not have to struggle through this world the same way that we had to struggle because of this type of situation. Educate yourself on what you need to do, you know, and let's take our communities and build them better. All these subjects and topics that we've covered, you know, about the black relationship, the black woman, about hip hop, about politics, all those different things as we come together is the culmination of being black in America, and how being black has caused these different things to be looked at and making that change. So go ahead, Raymond.
Time before we close out. Go ahead.
all right. See, this the thing. We are we in this together. We all in this together. And what I mean by that is white, black, Asian, whatever.
Absolutely.
All in this country together. Nobody is going nowhere. Nobody's going to be like, okay, hey, go back to Africa, go back to England, go back to China, go back. Nobody's going nowhere. They're here. So while we are here, we might as well work together and build something that we all can be equal in. And that's the thing. And you can't just be on an island by yourself saying,
Yes.
you need to go. You need to get out of here. You need to go wherever you can't do that. You have to deal with the issue until it gets solved. That's why you teach the next generation to do better and do better until it's at one point everybody like, damn, we all here together. Screw it.
Got it.
Start it over.
And you have to be intentional. You got to be intentional.
And you
That's
have to
the
be
only
involved.
way. It got to keep going. We are evolving. We are evolving. So that's what it is. Until we get to that point, we just got to keep pushing to that. We just got to keep moving.
True that. Mr. Carter, can you summarize?
You know, uh, we started with what's being black in America. Um, and from how we teach our kid, how we grew up, to how we teach our kids, to the differences outlined on current events. And I think Chris kind of said it, I guess poignantly. It's like, look, we are all from America. So I mean, we are all American in this establishment. So what we're talking about is like, this is how we are being American in America. So and it just happened to be black. Um, this episode is to have you to think, to see our passion, to see our pain, to see our struggle, of where we came from, what we went through, and where we would like this country to go, and where the starting points are. So, um, so being black in America is, with this topic, we ask everybody that's watching, is to look within themselves, to say, how can we be a better America, and how can we make sure that there's no distinction between the races of being in America and living in America.
Well put, sir. One thing I have to add in closing out is, I want you all to remember, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Get established.
This has been another episode of the Get Established Show. Today's topic was being black in America. We talked about only less than 1% of what it is to be black in America, but we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you got some insight, and we hope that we can take this and move forward to make a better America for all people, in the new terminology, not in the Constitution, for all people. So with that being said, we've done it again. We look forward to seeing you again. Please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We love to have you and be a part of what we're doing. We're going to change some things. We want you to be a part of it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for tuning in. This has been the Get Established Show.
Peace.